This is the last one, guys. Part 8 of our House on Mango Street series, and the last bit. If we were to map out the novel on a traditional plot graph, Part 7 would contain the climax and the falling action of the story. This part is the resolution, or denouement, which is a fancy French word that means the same thing as resolution. So, make sure you've read pages 103 to 110, and let's get started. Esperanza has found herself at a wake for Lucy and Rachel's infant sister. It sounds like a really surreal experience. At a traditional Catholic wake, the deceased is put in a casket out in the open, and everybody comes to visit and pay their last respects. They would do this even if the person that died was a baby. To add to the surreal nature of the event, Esperanza meets 3 older ladies who seem just a little supernatural. We get that sense solely from Esperanza's description. She says, they had the power. But she doesn't specify what the power was. We just pick it up from context that they have some kind of fortune-telling ability, a little bit like Aunt Lupe did, or maybe like Elenita claimed to have with her tarot cards and candles. They even predict tomorrow's weather. I mean, I suppose it could just be rheumatism, but it sure seems like magic to Esperanza. They tell her some things that she needs to take time to internalize or think about. She obviously wished for a house, and the old ladies seemed to guess at what she wanted pretty easily. But they remind her that she needs to come back to Mango Street. They're trying to help Esperanza realize that Mango Street is part of her identity, whether she wants it to or not. We are all influenced by the circumstances under which we were brought up. Being a kid on Mango Street is going to affect you the same way as anywhere else. Some of those effects might be good, and some not so good, but we're going to come back to that later. The last thing they tell her is that after she leaves Mango Street, she needs to make sure she comes back. They don't want her to forget her origins because, when she goes away to become successful, it might be enough that when she comes back, she can have some influence to make a place like Mango Street a little more positive. Sometime later, Esperanza hangs out with Alicia on Edna's steps. I think the title is kind of important here. Both Alicia and Edna's daughter Ruthie have been positive influences on Esperanza. She's not talking to Marin or Sally, who would relate to her in a different way. I think Alicia understands what Esperanza is trying to say, only Esperanza is still trying to find the right words to say it. She's trying to explain what she means when she says Mango Street is not her home. Alicia reminds her that of course it is, and points to her literal physical house. But they both know that's not what Esperanza means. Esperanza doesn't belong in the prescribed roles that exist for a woman in Mango Street. She's going to need to go off into the world on her own and find a place where she can be what she wants to be. But Alicia, in a way, is telling Esperanza that yes, she does belong on Mango Street. Not because it's the best place for her to be or spend the rest of her life, but because she's already there. It's already having an effect on who Esperanza grows up to be, just because Esperanza is spending her formative years there. Think about some of the things Esperanza has seen and experienced during the course of this novel. Those things might have happened differently, or not at all if she wasn't on Mango Street. But she has experienced what she has experienced, and her experiences will do their part in shaping her personality. Now, we have the shortest vignette in the book. This is another metaphor, and it carries a double meaning. Esperanza wants to have a house of her own, as in, she wants to have her own space to live, but also she wants to be independent of the influence of some of the overbearing forces that seem to overwhelm those around her. She's finally found the words to say what she's after. It's not just a physical house for herself and her family, but also a sense of her own identity that isn't managed by anyone else in her life. The title of the final vignette might make you think that Esperanza's leaving, but that's not entirely what I believe she's talking about. When Mango says goodbye, or When it's holding on to Esperanza with only one arm, it's doing two things. First, it's not coddling her. We've seen that growing up on Mango Street is a bit rough. There have been car thieves, rocks thrown through windows, people getting hit by cars. Not my idea of a perfectly safe neighborhood. But, on the other hand, it's not going to do anything to stop Esperanza from leaving. It's easier to break free from a single-armed embrace than when someone has both their arms wrapped around you. So, she's personifying Mango Street in order to make an analogy. A one-armed hug is both less nurturing and less restrictive. The other main point here is that now Esperanza is resolved to leave Mango Street. She really makes it sound like she's going to do that by pursuing an education, since she plans to write, and when she leaves she's going to take her books and papers with her. She also tells us that she's writing down her experiences on Mango Street, making stories out of them so that she can share them with other people in the future, who might not turn out like some of the more tragic characters in this book. She plans to come back, much like the three sisters asked her to, and to use what she's learned to make life better for other folks living on Mango Street. Yeah, and that's the whole book. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Even though it's a little short and not very happy at times, I still haven't really gotten tired of reading this book. There's a lot here to pick out and talk about. Believe me, I had to cut these scripts down to try and keep the videos around 10 minutes. So, let's talk about your assignment. The overall mood I get from Part 8 is one of healing and growth. Those things are especially necessary after you've been hurt in some way, whether you've been hurt physically or emotionally. And we know that Esperanza has been emotionally hurt, probably physically hurt as well. So she's focusing on developing her own goals and identity to get through a dark time. And we've all been through dark times, right? Sometimes it just feels like the world is falling apart around you, and you're powerless to do anything about it. It happens, and yet, we continue to live and breathe. We're still here. How do you pull that off? What is it that you think about that brings you hope when you're feeling down? Give me 3 to 5 sentences again, and tell me what you hope for. I can't wait to read it. So, yeah. Bye!